Are you worried about next fall? Keeping your children safe? Making sure they're still learning? Making time to aid their learning even though you have a full-time job and you never signed up to be a teacher? I've been hearing from so many parents that are worried about the upcoming school year. Don't worry. In today's episode, we're discussing 3 alternatives to attending a brick and mortar school. As an educator, behavior analyst, and tutor of 15 years, I've pretty much seen everything when it comes to children struggling with school. All the way from high-profile Hollywood families to low-income families with special needs children, all across the U.S. and even overseas. Let me, Stephanie Johnson, help you help your child not only improve in school, but develop the skills they'll need for lifelong stability, happiness, and success. Before we jump into today's topic, I have a couple of housekeeping tidbits for you. First and foremost, I want to apologize for my recent radio silence. If you want to hear about what I've been up to, I really hope you'll listen to Sunday's episode 10. In there, I discuss why I've been silent, as well as some major changes occurring for my students and anyone who is curious about working with me. My second bit of housekeeping is I want to make sure you know about my brand new website for the Learning Corner. You can now find me at services.tutorintinseltown.com/TLC. In episode 10, I discuss why I felt that this website was an important next step to take. I also discuss how it will benefit you and hopefully make your life much easier. Disclaimer time! This podcast is available to anyone with an internet connection. Therefore, as you might imagine, the Learning Corner has listeners from all over the world. We've had listeners join us from all across the US, Germany, and even Sri Lanka. And while I feel incredibly lucky and grateful to be able to reach and help so many listeners and their families, that also means that not everything I say will apply to every single listener. After all, some countries and regions of the world have very unique educational systems and resources available. Now, I don't want to scare you away. I will usually discuss more universal learning strategies. However, with so many countries still under some form of social distancing or quarantine, I felt it important to discuss what some options might be for the coming school year. I have done the bulk of my teaching and tutoring in the US. That's actually where I'm from, even though I currently find myself in Jamaica. Therefore, that's where the bulk of my experience comes from, in terms of academic structures. Though I absolutely do not mean to suggest that these are the only 3 options. In today's episode, we will be covering 3 alternatives to attending a brick and mortar school. So, let's get started, shall we? Now, most students, at least in the US, attend a brick and mortar school. The term brick and mortar, as it relates to school, means that there is an actual physical schoolhouse where children go during the day to be taught by teachers. These may be public schools, funded by the government, private schools, funded by students' tuition as well as donations, and charter schools, which receive government funding but operate independently of the established state school system of the area. But the reason for today's episode is that so many parents are concerned about schools reopening while COVID-19 is still a threat. Maybe you're one of them. I certainly don't blame you. Children are not very risk-averse, mainly because they're still so early in their development. You can send them off to school with all the masks, all the hand sanitizers, and a million reminders to keep 6 feet of separation. But the moment they see their friend borrow a pencil or hit the playground, all of it will be forgotten. Not to mention that teachers are already stretched thin as it is, without having to worry about COVID-19 contamination. So what can you do if you're having second thoughts about sending your children back to school? Well, your first step is to relax. Taking them out of a brick and mortar school does not necessarily mean they will have a poor education or a poor life or poor socialization. On the contrary, many of the brilliant minds of our civilizations had private at-home tutors and did not attend a brick and mortar school. It simply takes more effort on behalf of the parent to ensure they are focusing and making their learning a priority. So your first option is virtual school. Of course, depending on where you're from, this may not be an option for you. To be honest, it's not even an option in all 50 US states. Personally, I have experience with the virtual school systems of both Florida and California. I worked as a full-time in-home tutor for students in both of these systems. And I have to say, if virtual school is available to you, it's absolutely worth considering. Some of the pros to attending these virtual schools are that by remaining within the school system, you, as a parent, are not responsible for creating curriculum. Second, if your child is self-directed, they won't need too much of your attention if your situation is that you're also working from home. Third, by remaining within the state school system, you ensure that they remain on level with their peers and their education is fairly well-rounded and standardized. This is important if they plan on attending college, since not all universities are as open-minded about homeschooling. Fourth, they are still held accountable to a teacher with a syllabus and set deadlines, which will help them retain a sense of time management and accountability to someone in a role besides that of their parent. And last but not least, of course, in keeping with the times at which this episode is being published, your main pro is that they will be home and less exposed to COVID-19. Now, of course, I want to be impartial and just give you information to help you make the best decisions for your family. So, some of the cons of virtual school are the significantly inflated screen times. Now, you may be a parent who loathes screen time, or you may be 100% on board. Personally, I love using technology for teaching for many, many reasons. That's a topic for another day. I'm not here to judge in either direction. I simply bring it up because it is a concern for some parents, for many parents. And of course, significant screen time can cause headaches and trouble sleeping for many people, myself included. So if you do decide to go this route, consider investing in some blue light glasses to protect your child's vision. My second main con of virtual school is the reduced socialization. Now, to be fair, by virtue of today's topic, this will be a con for all the systems I talk about. You see, in school, children learn not only how to socialize with their peers, but also authority figures, bullies, friends, and children of their same and opposite gender. They are exposed to social routines and social structures. They may be exposed to children with unique tastes, disabilities, or of different nationalities that they might not otherwise be exposed to if they're spending the majority of their time at home. Now, that's not to say that it's impossible for them to be exposed to such things. Millions of families homeschool successfully, and they do an amazing job of socializing their children. Again, this is just a con that I have seen from my own experience, and it is something that you, as their parent, would have to make a priority. Your second option as an alternative to a brick and mortar school is homeschool. The pros of homeschool are you as a parent set your own curriculum. Now, this may be a con to many, but it's considered a pro by families who want to incorporate religious teachings into their child's education. This is not something you are typically able to do in the U.S. if your child is in a school system that receives state funding. The second pro of homeschooling is that you're able to mold the learning around your child's strengths and weaknesses. Maybe they are several grade levels ahead in math, but they struggle in reading. If you choose to homeschool, this is something you can take into account better than a teacher could if she has 30 other students in the same classroom that she has to teach. Now, the cons of homeschool are, like I said before, you have to set your own curriculum. Yes, I know. I listed it as both a pro and a con. And that's because it is. Depending on how much of their education you outsource and how much you're able to spend on online programs and outside resources to support their learning, you will be in charge of developing their curriculum. Now, if you're anything like me, you'll likely want your child to receive a well-rounded education. You'll need a lot of history, math, social studies, sciences, reading, the arts, of course, physical education. Now, without the government structure of a brick and mortar school or virtual school, developing or purchasing these curricula will fall on your shoulders. The second con of homeschool is that, just like with virtual school, you will have to make it a priority to include socialization into their day-to-day routine. You will have to make sure it's a part of their education, not just the actual academics portion. Your third option is called unschooling. Also known as autonomous, child-led, or delight-directed learning, unschooling is an informal learning strategy that advocates for learner-chosen activities as a primary means for learning. Basically, it means that learning is led by the student. As you might gather, this is on the complete opposite end of the spectrum when it comes to how structured your child's learning and academic routine could be. Unschooling is based on the idea that children are naturally curious and inquisitive about their surroundings and everything in life. So, by allowing them to pursue their natural curiosities, you're allowing them to learn in the way that is most natural to their development. As with all these options, we have pros and cons. The pros to unschooling are primarily that learning will remain fun and stress-free for your child. Anyone that I have ever worked with can tell you that I am a huge advocate for making learning fun and stress-free. As a matter of fact, the entire first stage of my academic success path that I provide for my clients is focused on instilling a love of learning in children. Learning occurs in school, sure, but it most certainly should not be limited to the structures and routines of school. Learning is and should be a lifelong journey, and by allowing children to guide their own learning, they can develop their own interests and skills. However, unschooling can have significant drawbacks. The main drawback is that if you follow a 100% student-led learning method, you may struggle to develop well-rounded children. If I had been unschooled, I promise you I would have spent all my time painting and reading fiction, and I would not have spent a single minute on history. My brother likely would not know how to do basic math. He is absolutely intelligent. He just never had an interest. And so, if children are 100% in charge of their learning, if they don't have well-rounded interests, they may not develop well-rounded skills. Another drawback to unschooling is that children learn most of their time management, routine, and self-management from following schedules and school routines. If they later decide to attend college, they may have a difficult time adjusting to a set syllabus and order. Not to mention that a university might have a difficult time understanding the scope of your child's education and may therefore deny their application. Whoa, that was a long one. Well, there you have it. 3 alternatives to attending a brick and mortar school: virtual school, homeschool, and unschool. I'm curious, would you consider any of these for your child for this coming fall? I'd love to hear your thoughts over on the Learning Corner's new website. Once again, that's services.tutorintinseltown.com/TLC. And if you do want to pursue one of these options, I have something amazing coming down the pipeline for you in the next couple of weeks. I can't give any details about it just yet, but I promise you it's going to be incredible for you, your child, and their education. Now, I am certain that if you implement the lessons I teach here on the Learning Corner, you will start to see significant changes in your child's motivation and their behavior towards school and learning. But if you're still struggling with your child and would like some individualized support, I highly encourage you to book a free one-on-one academic success call with me right on the TLC's new website. In this call, we can talk more specifically about your child, your family's needs, and my best advice on how to proceed in order to set your child up to have the absolute best chance at a lifetime of success, happiness, and financial stability. Thank you for spending time with me today. Till next time. Thanks again for joining me for today's episode of The Learning Corner, where I give you the tools to get your child from where they are to a place of lifelong success.